Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Best on Wellbeing podcast. My name is Guillaume Tremblay, and today we're going to move back in terms of the mind. The last few episodes, we've been focusing on kind of the emotional side of things, which we'll return to eventually. But I thought we would come back up to the mind and the processing there and how we can go about it in a way that in our day to day lives that is useful. And a very important distinction that we want to try to apply is the idea of thinking through versus thinking about. This is an important but very subtle distinction. Most of us spend a lot of our days thinking about our life challenges or problems, whichever way we want to call them, and we think about them all the time. And we think about them, we think about them, we think about them. And so usually that part of the brain that is thinking about something that's bothering us isn't actually the part of the brain that is designed to find solutions, to come up with a plan, to make a decision. So thinking about the myth about regarding thinking about is that if we think about things enough, it's going to protect us. It's going to serve us. We're going to come up with we're going to be able to meet the challenges that we're facing by thinking about it a lot. But really, what it ends up doing is just kind of increasing our stress, decreasing our well being, and not actually helpful in terms of practically approaching the challenge that we're facing. Whereas thinking through something, to truly think through it, is a very different cognitive process. So, what is thinking through like? The recommendation I give a lot of people is to take a piece of paper or an iPad or a pen, like an iPad, a computer, phone, but I prefer pen and paper, but whatever way you prefer to write things down, and you write down the thing that's challenging you the most in your mind, basically the thing you're thinking about the most, and you write that down and you begin to think through it. What are the possible ways I can approach this challenge? What are the advantages of solution A versus solution B? What are the action items to carry out solution A? What's the timeline for today versus tomorrow versus next week? And so it's really a brainstorming process to really think through the challenge that you're having. And that's very different than thinking about. It's literally a different part of the brain. It's a part of the brain that's typically associated with focus, the task positive network that we call it. It's associated to executive functioning, solution finding. So thinking through can be very helpful versus thinking about doesn't tend to get us anywhere further ahead except bring on more stress. So when I talk about some of the chatty mind and learning to reduce the chatty mind, sometimes people might think that I'm implying that all sorts of thinking isn't good, that we shouldn't think at all, and that's not a good thing. And this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are different types of thinking. And when we think about too much, it doesn't really help us. When we learn to think through something, that can be very useful. It's very difficult to actually think through without a piece of paper and a pen or an iPhone or whatever, because if we try, okay, I have something, I'm going to think through my issue right now. And then you start to think through, and then it branches off into another issue. And like, oh, what about that thing? And you branch off over here, and you branch off over there, and all of a sudden you're gone, and you're not actually thinking about the original problem. Our minds are like that. That's why we call it the monkey mind. It just bounces all over the place. But when you put it on paper, you actually freeze it there. And when you freeze it there, then you can kind of hone in and actually think through it. And what many people have told me is that even just 5 minutes a day of taking a piece of paper and a pen and writing down the thing that's challenged them and thinking through it can be very helpful. I've even gotten feedback that it's improved people's sleep, because sometimes people lie in bed and then they start thinking about all their challenges and how they're going to deal with tomorrow, and then they can't fall asleep. Whereas when you think through it, if you write down the thing that's on your mind the most, let's say half an hour before bed, and you just spend a couple minutes really thinking through what's your best approach for this thing. Well, it naturally liberates the mind, and the mind's less has a less tendency to think about it. And then therefore you can go on with either going to sleep or going on with other tasks in your life without so much on your mind. And when there's less on the mind, we tend to feel better, have less stress, and increase well-being. So the big recommendation today, folks, it's that we learn to think about less and think through more. Have a good day, folks. If you find it useful, please share the podcast, subscribe, follow, anything like that. Super helpful. We'll see you next time.